it's Karen Burniston here with a video preview of the 12 new die sets in our April 2021 release. First up is our Tiny Trees pop-up die set. There are actually 16 pieces in this set because it includes a ton of little decorator pieces. I love the Tiny Trees set for its versatility because you can use the tree flat on the fronts of cards if you need it. And then, of course, it makes an adorable little pop-up tiny tree. And then the set includes all of those decorator pieces for any season. So we're talking a heart and flowers, a tire swing, different types of leaves, snowflakes, 2 different kinds of birds. All those tiny elements are included in the set. You also have 2 assembly options. You can build it right over the fold of the card like I did on the winter tree, or there is a piece in the set that's called a fold splitter. And what that will do is create 2 diagonal folds off of the center fold, and either or both of those new folds can animate a tree. So if you have a large enough card, like this one's a 5x7, you can actually fit 4 trees inside the card. You can also put the tiny trees in a side fold card. So here's a mini slimline by Karen Aiken, and she's put a tree over the center fold, and then she's decorated it with cherries to make it a cherry tree. And the cherries came out of a great add-on set for the Tiny Tree set, and this one is called Tree Fruit. So this one's user-friendly. Each of the dies cuts multiples, plus you've got the color separation on different dies. One thing about this collection is that each die set really does include a lot of pieces. So in our tiny house pop-up, there are 13 pieces in the die set, and once again, you've got all those cute little embellishments to make flat houses for the fronts of cards as well. But then it makes just the most adorable little pop-up house. And like I said, the die set includes the door and the windows and the flower boxes and the chimney and the little heart and the stone path for the front, so everything you need. We are also really excited to introduce a brand new feature with this die set that we haven't done on any of our other die sets, and that is that the roof itself is actually a die and a stamp. It's all in one. Okay, so just this piece in the set, which is the roof piece, there's actually an extra layer in there that includes a stampable surface. So if you die cut that without any ink on it at all, that extra surface is actually going to press the texture down into your cardstock. So even without ink, it's a cool texture for your roof. But now let's try it with a little bit of ink. So I'm just going to use a Distress ink cube because it's small and I'm able to kind of maneuver it around to add the ink all over the roof piece. But really, honestly, you could use pretty much any kind of, I would say probably dye-based ink, just because the pigment will take a long time to dry. But experiment, almost any ink will work. There's a coating on that die that's going to allow it to accept ink. And then after adding the ink to the die, you're just going to roll it through your die cutting machine like normal. So there's no special sandwich. There's no extra step other than adding the ink. Just roll it through like normal. It is going to die cut it. It is going to score it. And it is going to stamp it all at the same time. And now the roof has those cool shingle pattern already stamped basically onto it during the die cutting process. So what a great time saver to just have that built in to the die. But of course it is optional. You do not have to use ink on it at all, and you'll still get a fun texture to it. You can clean the ink off the die just the way that you normally would, either with a die or a stamp. So I'm just squirting it with a little bit of water and just using a microfiber towel to take that ink off. I would recommend that you clean it right after you use it, of course, so you don't cake up ink on your die. So we have a gnome set already and some backyard charms and fairies and things. And so I thought it would be really cool to have an add-on set for the tiny house pop-up that would turn it into a mushroom house. So this is an add-ons set. It adds on just the 7 pieces you need to convert your tiny house pop-up into a mushroom house. So that includes that really cool dimensional curved roof. Then you get the rounded door and the round windows plus that grass piece to attach to the back of the house. Then you can start interchanging the doors and the windows and the flower boxes and things from both sets. Now that gnome is our already previously released Gnome and Santa die set. We also have the backyard charms. And what we try to do with our die sets is have them be timeless tools. When new dies come out, they are always backwards compatible, and you can always combine dies from different releases into fun new looks. So here's a great illustration of making a whole Happy Spring kind of fairy garden card. So the tiny house pop-up plus the mushroom tiny house add-on, but then the little fairy perched on a mushroom on the grass. You've got tiny trees in the background with that fold splitter allowing for there to be 2 of them in a pretty small card. Okay, you also have a preview of a couple pieces out of the next set I'm going to show, but first let me explain how it came to be. So with our last release, we released a die set called the Mini Pops Pop-Up, which has 4 little generic pop-up platforms, and I had taught as the assembly video for that die set how to make a 4-panel slimline card with different opening flaps. And then the Noel one was so popular that I made it again in a love theme around Valentine's Day. So once again using the mini pops, but the actual card itself making all of those flaps to open. We just thought it would be really much more convenient if there were a die to help make that card shape. So now we have it. This is the Slim Flaps and Frames. There are 12 pieces in the set. In addition to the 2 flaps themselves, the side fold and the top fold flap, you also get all of these decorator pieces. So you get those banners and long rectangles and frames, all of those hearts come in it. So really nice decorator pieces that you'll use for all sorts of things. Now inside, you don't have to add the mini pops, but it really is sized perfectly to be able to animate the mini pops pop-up and then any of our element sets. And what I'm using on this one is a combination of our backyard charms, but then also the picnic element. So this is a new set. It comes with that blanket and that basket and the pie, the ants, the French bread. You've got the lemonade and the lemonade pitcher. So really cute set for all of those kind of spring and summer feeling cards. Another previously released die that goes great with this new collection is our Home Sweet Home die set. So you can see that on the front of this Slim Flaps and Frames card, but then we do have a new word die, and that is the welcome. So that can be used on its own. You can see here I've had it say welcome new neighbors, but it's sized and curved to fit perfectly with one of the homes out of Home Sweet Home in case you ever want to say welcome home. So another great example of our dies always working with what came before. So by putting 2 side fold flaps on the same side, then I have a larger flap that I can use to animate the tiny house pop-up inside that same 4x9 slimline card. And you can see those little banners strung from the house, a little place to sign the card down here. So I love the Slim Flaps and Frames because of course it has all of those decorator pieces as well as just the ease of getting that perfect flap every time. We are adding another Pivot Panels die set. So we have 5 already. There are trees and houses and hearts and a train and gifts. And now we are adding the flower pivot panels. There are 9 dies in the set. And this first card, you can see how well that the Slim Flaps and Frames will work with any of these Pivot Panels die sets to maybe do the greeting blocks and things. And then here's the pop-up row of 6 flowers. Pivot Panels die sets have very quick and easy card assembly, but then they also have an amp up kind of feature, which is if you combine them with our twist panel pop-up die set, which is sold separately, then you can create a double pop-up. So let me show you what that looks like. The twist panel pops it up and then you have that flower pivot panel creating the center section of that twisting pop-up. Pivot panels also fit in slimline and mini slimline cards. So here's one by Karen Aiken. I just love the styling of the flowers in this one, mini slimline card. We have some new tool charms and a Happy Father's Day greeting. The Happy Father's Day does come with a shadow die as well. And then the tools are fun. And for this card, I've used the flower pivot panels again, but this time instead of flowers, I just substituted those tool charms. So you can see how generic that flower pivot panels die set can be. We have a new Waterfall card pop-up die set. So very generic die set, 16 pieces in the die. You have options for how you assemble it, whether it's going to be a vertical waterfall or a horizontal. You just pull the tab and flip through to decorate all those panels, as well as having a space revealed where you can write your personal greeting. So that can go on, say, the outside of a card that opens, or it could just even be a postcard style. The word pull is die cut right into this piece with an arrow to tell people which direction to pull. Here's a card that Lois made. So she's got her little pull tab here, and this is a slimline size, and then she's used a lot of our farm elements on the waterfall, so kind of giving you an idea of the size. This is a postcard style slimline, so she's just got a place on the back to write the personal greeting. You have the option to make horizontal waterfalls, of course, and there is a pull piece that's oriented for a horizontal waterfall. Now this one actually features our last new die in the collection, which is our Happy Mother's Day, and that does also include that shadow die. The edger dies, all 3 of them, come included in the waterfall card. I used a flower from the flower pivot panels, a little tiny bird from the tiny trees set. And you can also just maybe use some pretty patterned paper in your waterfall. And then mine reveals a greeting, "Love you, Mom." You do choose your card size and style. I made a postcard style. So when I totaled up the number of individual pieces in these 12 new die sets, it's 106. I was actually surprised, but as you can imagine, there's going to be lots of ways to mix and match those pieces. Stores can start ordering these dies today, so if you are lucky enough to have a local store, I would definitely check with them first. Otherwise, you can order from our website, KarenBurniston.com, starting April 19th, 2021. Thanks for watching.